Over to Dr. Gia Daniel, who is on my dissertation committee. She's my co-chair to get us started.
So we'll start with brief introductions. Again, thank you for coming. So excited to be here, so excited for Octavia. So my name is Dr. Gia Daniel. I'm faculty here at Emory. My program of research focuses on the sociocultural and environmental factors that influence sexual health behaviors and outcomes in Black women. And so, most importantly, I'm here for Octavia this evening. So proud of her as her dissertation committee chair to see this come to fruition. We've been talking about this for quite a while, and so I'm really thrilled.
And I did not introduce myself. I have a bad habit of doing that. I'm Octavia Vogel. I'm a fourth-year PhD student here in the School of Nursing. This is an outgrowth of my dissertation research around Black women's experiences accessing healthcare in Atlanta. And I'm going to turn it over to Sierra.
My name is Sierra King. I'm an artist and an archivist here in Atlanta, Georgia. I was brought onto this project via Stephanie Brown. We're both alumna of the Arts and Social Justice program. So my work begins and ends in the archives and collaborates with organizations and Black women.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Brown. I'm a photographer and installation artist based here in Atlanta. I had the honor of working with Octavia in 2021 during my time as an Emory Arts and Social Justice Fellow. And I was honored for Octavia to come back around, and she was really passionate about introducing art into this project. My work focuses on how people of color in particularly construct their identities. So I utilize interactive installations as opportunities for people to rediscover themselves and empower their sense of self.
Hello, my name is Ashley Stevens, and I'm the archivist of historical collections at the Woodruff Health Sciences Center Library. And how I got involved is, it was an email that someone said there's a doctoral candidate who has this idea for a project, and that's how we kind of got connected.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So we're going to start out. I'll ask each one some questions, and then we'll have a few questions for the panel, and we'll definitely make time and space for you all to ask questions towards the end. And like Octavia said, we'll end at 6:45, so we can all walk over to see the installation. Oh my gosh, I don't know about y'all, but I'm super excited about the installation. I have not seen it, and I can't wait. All right, so Octavia, we'll start with you. What inspired the vision behind the study and this particular art installation for the case study?
So the vision for this study really started out of my research. A couple years ago, I had a health issue, and it was really hard to get somebody to help me. And before that, I have two daughters, and when I was having my first daughter, the nurse put the IV in, I told her this hurts, and she didn't take it out, she just ignored me. And so from that, I ended up having, my thumb would get stuck. And so I went to the doctor and I said, oh, my thumb is doing this. And he's like, oh, you have diabetes. I was 23, I don't have diabetes. Diabetes doesn't run in my family, I don't have diabetes now. So I was just like, okay, there's something to this. And also I work in public health, and I was seeing that Black women were being diagnosed with breast cancer and then also dying from breast cancer at higher rates, and higher socioeconomic status wasn't protected, and that's not what we would expect to see in populations. The more income and education you have, that's supposed to result in more access and better care, and that's not necessarily true for Black women. So that all kind of led to this dissertation study around really looking at the healthcare experience and where the breakdown is there. And then I have been able to recruit and talk with 15 women over the course of the last 5 months. And so I kind of did a high-level overview of the data, and that led to the themes that you'll see today in the project in the library.
Good question. And so you talked about the themes. Can you describe how those themes of the Black women, their health, their healing, and their lived experience, can you describe how they're represented in this piece?
Sure. So after talking with about 15 women, some things really became clear. So Black women could tell, like, as soon as I walk in the door, I know this is gonna be a bad experience. Like, I don't even have to talk to anybody. I can just tell from the energy in here, like, this is gonna be bad. And so that's one of the things that we really wanted to subvert with the installation, is that the feeling that you want to invoke and you want your office to be inviting, because people can tell even without you saying anything to them. Another thing was like the space being uncomfortable sometimes, especially around like being dismissed and ignored when you're trying to tell somebody something and you're in this clinical space and there's already this like power imbalance. And so we really wanted to make the space as comforting and as warm as it could be. And so hopefully that will come across in what you see today.
Thank you. Now I'm even more excited. All right, so Stephanie, we'll ask you a few questions. What materials, mediums, or artistic techniques did you choose and why?
So when I first started talking to Octavia about it, I waited until she actually started conducting some of the interviews to get a lot of that preliminary data. And that's really what drove how the final design of the installation would be. And I actually pitched, I think, maybe 4 different ideas. A lot of it was going to be site dependent, like where is it going to be, how much space do we have, how long can it be up for. I think something that was really apparent was that it needed to be a doctor office. And we needed to utilize that since that was a common thread and where people were having these experiences. When I'm designing an installation, I also like to leverage things that anybody can connect to, right? So even with this being a study that's focused on Black women's healthcare experiences, anybody can relate to a doctor's office, right? Anybody knows what that looks like. So when I'm designing an installation, I utilize prototypical images and references in the design to help pull people in. And that's like the main thing. It's creating a space that's going to immediately pull people in. And then once you're pulled in, now you can kind of discover some Easter eggs. What are their things to touch and feel? Where are there opportunities to add to the data that Octavia is collecting? So we've incorporated some feedback opportunities. We've incorporated some activities for people to do when they're in the space. There's plenty to look at. There's plenty to touch. It's designed to really entice you. Like you're going to look at it and you're just going to kind of feel like, oh my goodness, I really want to touch that. You can, because it is an interactive installation. And for me, that's the most exciting part when it comes to designing installations. I love to challenge the status quo. I love to challenge this concept and feeling of, we go to a gallery and you definitely can't touch anything, right, for the most part. Well, what happens when you do? And how can you connect with the work differently when you are able to actually touch and feel the work? I think that's the really pivot point for the art installation that I design in particular, and incorporating that. So when it comes to this study and thinking about how it can help people and really showcase the work that Octavia is finding, from these interviews and conversations that she's having, those are our moments to really transcend that.
So everybody, you got that? We have permission to touch, enjoy, interact, become a part of the art. All right. And one more question for you. How do you hope viewers will emotionally or intellectually engage with the installation? I know you talked about the physical touch, but emotionally and intellectually.
I think emotionally, my hope is that you feel a sense of peace and comfort. My hope is that people will take their experiences in this installation and really start to compare it to their own medical experiences. Again, with this idea of subversion and thinking about visual images that you're used to seeing, you know what a waiting room looks like, you know what that table looks like, you kind of already have in your brain certain things to expect when going to a doctor's office. So my hope is that viewers really become participants by engaging, and also that you'll start to just challenge the ways that you might have experienced, and maybe that might empower you to speak up next time. Maybe that'll empower you to say like, okay, maybe this is not okay, maybe this is not standard. And I think those are opportunities for us to, again, beyond like challenging the status quo, it's like planting a seed. So I think my hope is that this installation plants some seeds in all of you to really challenge the future spaces that you enter when it comes to your medical care and advocating for yourself.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate of advocacy. I think that's beautiful that you're aiming to bring that out, and I'm looking forward to that experience. I appreciate that. Sierra, I have a few questions for you. As an archivist, how do you navigate preserving vulnerability and authenticity, especially when documenting the lives and health experiences of Black women?
Well, do you mean like it pertains to this particular project or like in my work overall?
I'm actually curious about both. So, of course, relevant to the project, but like your overarching, because I mean, we may have other people who want to collaborate with archivists and artists in the future.
Okay, yeah. Well, in my practice, as far as like being an archivist, it's rooted in just radical care and empathy, understanding that like I'm not only interacting with the records of a person, but I'm still interacting with the person, whether they're here or transcended. And how do I do that? And how do I do that respectively? And how do I also collaborate with their communities and being able to have a relationship with them based on the people that they've already cultivated around themselves. And so I think it not only starts with the person, but you're also like interacting with the ecosystem that they've already created in their lives. I'm not trying to bring a new community into their lives, but kind of like co-collaborating and co-designing an archive with them. And that kind of like bounces back in between whether I have access to that person or if they've like passed on and transcended. And so when thinking about working with Octavia in this project and the participants, while we didn't have a physical relationship, I was still able to access their data and also have like a personal interview with them. And so my interview particularly didn't have anything to do with their medical experiences. Actually, I wanted to know more about their dogs and the things that they kept in their home and the books on their libraries to really understand who they were as people and how that influenced their coming into these health experiences, right? So you're a person before you go to the doctor, right? It's not the other way around. It's not the doctor influencing who you are as a person, but you bring your whole self into that situation. And so doing that process kind of helps me just keeping humanity at the center of it.
That's both beautiful, powerful, and deep. I know with nursing students, I tell them you're not just treating one thing that's wrong with your patient, you're treating a whole person. This person had a whole life, a whole existence before they even walked into this room. And so you need to take that into consideration. So I love what you said. Thank you. And then Ashley, I have questions for you. As an archivist also at the Health Sciences Library, what drew you to this project? Beyond the email.
Well, honestly, it's a two-parter. So the simplest is that I see this as part of an ever-evolving relationship and partnership with the School of Nursing that started ever since I reached out to Dr. Kylie Smith to give a talk on her research, which is about psychiatric hospitals in the South during the Jim Crow era. So at the library, we got the National Library of Medicine traveling exhibit, Care in Custody. And so she did a talk, and side note, shameless plug, if you go on Emory Library's YouTube, you can stream it. So that kind of started this relationship with the School of Nursing, and I found that over time, more and more people knew my name, and that's how eventually it led to that email. And I would say on a more personal note, what drew me to the project is that it made me think about my mother. So my mother had 2 bouts of breast cancer, about 10 years apart. And she unfortunately passed away after her second bout. And it took me back to that moment of being a 20-year-old college sophomore, getting the call from my sister that my mom's cancer had come back. And this is after my sister spent considerable time and effort trying to get my mom to go to the doctor. And at first, my mom got the diagnosis and then she passed away, and it was a big shock to my family. And as a child, looking to their parent, I had a whole bunch of questions that I would have loved to have asked her, like, why did you wait so long? What happened? What stopped you from going to the doctor? But then this project helped me to kind of recontextualize those questions and wonder, what was your experience going to the doctor? This is the second time that you've had breast cancer and you are navigating this healthcare system. And I'm pretty sure that my mom never encountered a doctor who looked like her. So what was that experience for her? And there are so many unresolved questions, but that's what drew me to the project, and I feel like in some way I get an opportunity to honor her in that capacity. And then as a side note, I also, maybe she'll see the recording or not, I just want to give a shout out to my big sister, because she eventually became a nurse, and she is an oncology nurse. And I like to think that every day she is honoring our mother by being there for the oncology patients and their family. So that's what drew me to the project.
Thank you for sharing your personal story. Really appreciate that vulnerability. Can you tell us about your vision? I know earlier you mentioned engaging with the School of Nursing. Can you tell us about your vision for continuing to do that work with the School of Nursing and the archives and all of the great work that is happening?
I don't have like a particular set in stone vision. I would like to see more collaborations, but I think and the way that I've approached my career and my work is just being open to those opportunities, positioning myself as a resource, because when to take it back with Kylie Smith, it was just letting her know who I was and about the collection and staying in contact. And other opportunities popped up. And oftentimes I think we discount the time involved to build those relationships, because outreach, collaborations, partnerships, they take time. But what I would like to see is more projects such as this. The archivist in me is also like, let's talk about records. And whether it's just offering advice to people who are considering donating their materials, or whether people decide that they would like to donate their materials to historical collections. I'm open to that discussion, and then in turn making those accessible and getting those in the hands of researchers, so they're accessing our collections, they're learning these stories, and hopefully, like they say, once you know better, do better.
So we're in a room of health sciences, and not every, I didn't know what archive was. In my mind, archive was something you see in National Treasure. It's a big library with you think it's something more than kind of what it is. So can you guys talk about just really briefly what an archive is, and then why it's important to have records?
For me, an archive is whatever you want it to be. I haven't been necessarily rooted in the academic or traditional definition of what an archive is, so that has been the shoebox under my bed, or a particular reading room here at Emory, or the attic of Kathleen Cleaver. So I think that wherever you are, an archive is. You just have to be aware of it, and regardless of who the steward is or who the traditional librarian is over that, I hope that they are preserving and taking care of those records the best that they can.
That's a very good answer. And I will just, a small addition is just saying an archive is also, in addition to that, it can be a physical place where people come to view those materials. And I would say before I was an archivist, I was a history nerd. And so to me, it's all about learning that history, the stuff that you produce and you create is valuable. It is important. It is the story of you. It is the story of your family. It is the story of these institutions. And projects such as this help to expand beyond the kind of traditional stuffy idea of an archive, because you are inviting people to share their story and it becoming part of this larger conversation.
Like Octavia, I visited the archives the first time as a PhD student or postdoc, and it really was a magical experience. I thank you for that definition, like it's anywhere, it's what I want it to be. But it really was a magical experience for me. I do encourage you to take some time to find your way into the archive in the traditional setting, and also, like she said, consider your own personal history and your own personal documentations and everything else as archives. Thank you all. We're not done yet. I wanted to open the floor for questions from the audience. Don't be shy. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm actually Octavia's daughter. I thought I would come up and hug her real quick. Hi, Mom. and then that's my sister. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Can people online ask questions?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Bernice DeRosa from Johns Hopkins, also a PhD candidate. This is amazing work, especially in the context of like disseminating research findings. I had a question about, do you plan on integrating this into potentially informing how actual like clinic spaces are modeled, and maybe serving as a consultant in certain clinical spaces to be a little bit more welcoming?
Bernice, I don't know.
I am available for hire. I am very available. That's a great question. Octavia and I have talked about this being a traveling exhibit. I really feel like it could easily be plugged and played into anywhere. So keep that in mind, throwing it out there if anybody knows of a place. I think the beautiful thing of it being in a library, and we didn't think about this originally for the exhibits, we were thinking about like galleries, community spaces, things of that nature, but I actually love that it ended up being in a library. One is, again, prototypical, you gotta be a little quiet in the library, just like you're a little quiet in a doctor's office. Like you can talk, but you're not like screaming or anything like that. So there's that. But we also have the opportunity for the exhibit to be up for so long. And I think that that's necessary for this type of exhibit, for people to really spend time with it. The hope is that Octavia will get more people wanting to, participate in the study because of it. I'd love to consult other doctors' offices. I think that art is so universally applicable in so many other spaces, and not everybody has the brain to kind of connect those dots and make it make sense. So I'm raising my hand that that's what I love to do. I think the Emory Arts and Social Justice Program, for those who aren't familiar with it, they pair artists with non-art classes in particular. So when I was assigned a nursing class, I was super excited, and Octavia's professor at first was just like, I don't understand, we don't have time for this. Like she didn't fully get it. But by the end of it, she was asking me, can I reuse some of these exercises you do with the students? I want to add it to my curriculum. Like, can I do this? Like, she was on board. Like, she was such a cheerleader for what we were doing. And as I've shared with Octavia before, with the way that I specifically design my art pieces, art is such a great way to help take what's the heart of what you're trying to do, which is the conversations that we had. Like, you know, let's not talk about the data for a second. Let's not talk about the details for a second. Let's get back to, like, why are you getting a PhD? Why are you in school for the first place? Who are you hoping to impact? Because that's our target audience. And everything we design, every decision that you'll see in this space was designed with those people in mind.
Hello.
Thank you.
My name is Tammy Lau. I'm a sociology candidate, PhD candidate here at Emory. I'm so proud of you, Octavia. We took a class together 2 years ago, and I think that was like, you were starting to conceptualize how you want to bring like theory into this space of nursing that doesn't really like prioritize theory. So I'm just so proud of you. Each of you talked about the significance of understanding the intricacies of someone's life to understand their like social outcomes or health outcomes, or just understanding how to illustrate that. And I actually had a specific question for you, Sierra. You talked about when you did your interviews, you didn't ask about like health or anything like that, but like people's dogs or the books that they read or whatever. And I'm wondering how you were able to use that information to like nuance their health experience and their health stories without knowing their health outcomes, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I'm still working on my part of the project, so completely fine. Thoughts are straight off the top of my head from here. But yeah, so when I'm thinking about like asking questions about dogs or asking questions about favorite books, it's more so trying to understand like your interior of your life, and understanding how you build the interiority of yourself, and how you take that into the places that you go. And so when they're going to these doctor visits, or going to urgent care, or going to reoccurring visits like that, they're bringing their dog, they're bringing their books, they're bringing their jewelry, or they're bringing things that their grandmother told them with them. So I'm thinking about, I'm actually, can I tell them what I'm making? From the interviews, I'm thinking about making friendship bracelets for each of them, and for them to be able to use that as a touchstone to take with them when they go to, if they continue to go and experience these different health experiences. For myself, I know jewelry is a touchstone, particularly because my grandmother left me her jewelry, and so I take pieces with me with her. I have on her watch and her bracelets, and particularly thinking about that one significant moment where they ask you to take your jewelry off, or they ask you to remove like metals and things when you are either doing like x-rays or particular exams and things like that. And so most people's minds or subconscious isn't necessarily on the actual exam, but they're thinking about, where's my jewelry, where are my things, where are the things that I came in with, and am I going to leave here with them, and am I going to leave it all? And so being able to create a significant piece like a friendship bracelet, I hope that they'll be able to leave with that every time that they go into a space like that.
Wow. Each of you shared something about your own personal lives that resonated deeply with me. And I'm just thinking about the experiences as a Black woman in America and navigating these spaces, especially the healthcare spaces, and thinking about how what each one of you said can make participants and Black women in general feel like they're not alone. So many times when you're in those spaces, you're like, am I the only one? Like, I'm scared, I don't know, is this normal? This like, you have these thoughts running through your mind, but what each one of you said, I feel will empower Black women and will let them know that they're not alone. Thank you all so much for this time. Octavia, the mastermind behind this all. You are brilliant. We appreciate you. We honor you. And with that, we're going to head over to the library to experience, interact with, touch the exhibit.
So the library closes at 7, right? Yes. Okay. So if we go over now, we just have to be cognizant that the students are there and they do